Hello, thank you for tuning into the Warren Christmas Village channel. On today's episode, I'm going to show how to turn a dollar store toy into this piece of terrain for the D&D Adventure League one-shot called The Hangover, which showcases a crashed wagon at the beginning of the adventure. So if you'd like to learn how to do this with some basic, inexpensive craft supplies most crafters have at home, stay tuned. In today's video, I'm going to take this dollar store covered wagon and convert it into a crashed wagon piece of scattered terrain that I'm going to use for an Adventure League one-shot adventure that I'm running on Thursday. So here's what I've done so far. I bought several of these, and I'm going to unpackage one for the camera so you can see what we're working with as far as the dollar store tour goes. There's some nice details on this, but it's not perfect, but what do you expect for $1? So the wagon appears to be in scale for popular role-playing game miniatures like D&D or even Frostgrave. And it comes with a cowboy, a seated cowboy, and the covered part of the wagon comes off. If we take a peek, it has these four postmarks that I just wasn't fond of. The cowboy can come off. He is not in scale, and yes, there's a hole in his butt. All Brokeback Mountain jokes aside, this is a pretty decent set. It also comes with a campfire, and there's a pot, a horse, which is not scaled for D&D, and some action figures, which are also not scaled for D&D. The covered wagon set does scale very nicely with the cowboy riding a Jackalope miniature, as is, with no paint job on it. Looks pretty good. But I wanted to make this a little more interesting than just a inexpensive plastic toy. And I noticed the toy was lacking a lot of texture on the inside of the wagon, so I just put a bunch of wood in there to take care of that. This is a tutorial that's great for all those bits and scraps that we as crafters hoard around. So what I did is I took off some pieces here and there, trimmed things down, and then I took a piece of XPS foam and that was triangular or cone shaped and put the wagon on top of it as if the wagon had come careening down and crashed into it. I used a piece of cardboard for the base, which I kind of cut into a kidney style shape, and then here I put masking tape around the edges, which helps out when the final result so you don't have that space between the corrugated cardboard. Here's some close-ups of those posts that I just didn't like, those holes. So on the back end, I put kebab skewers in, and on the front, I just put a piece of wood to cover it. For this tutorial, I'm going to use some sponge foo bits as well as leftover XPS foam chunks that I have. This is great for getting rid of all those little bits and pieces and scraps that we have hanging around. I think it looks pretty good so far. So the black blobs in the piece that you're looking at right now are actually nicely textured bits of sponge with that I've hardened with a technique called sponge foo. So I wanted to take a little time and show the 3 stages of how to turn the sponges into sponge foo, and I'll put a card up top if you'd like to watch the tutorial on how this is done. So back to basics, here we go. I'm going to now add some Arlene's Tacky Glue, which is basically a PVA. We could use the inexpensive glue from the dollar store or Elmer's, but I'm a fan of the Arlene's. It's a little thicker. And then here's my sand or rock grout mixture that I got from the hardware store. I'm just going to throw this down and add a little texture to the piece. made so far. The sun has gone down while this has dried, so I've moved inside with my insufficient lighting. I like the lighting better outdoors. So I added another layer of the sandy gravel rock combo with, I picked out this one rock that fell out to add because I thought it would look nice. Now when I primed everything with my PVA paint and glue mixture, I tried to avoid the model itself, the cheap plastic toy, because I'm just not sure what's going to happen. But I did get some splatter on there, and that's okay. Here is an example of what I mentioned earlier with how I took care of those posts I didn't like by putting those in there. And I just broke them off, made them uneven because this is a wreck. And then to cover up the ones in the front, I just glued this piece of wood stick that I cut down to size on top just to cover it up because I just didn't like how those looked. So for a primer, I'm going to go ahead and use a really nice, expensive Citadel Chaos Black model paint because I think this will just hold up better than a cheap acrylic paint. So I'm going to go outside and spray paint this on the porch. Here is some footage of the terrain piece that I've made after I've gone ahead and black bombed it with the Citadel Chaos Black spray paint. This has got some really nice texture going on with the sponge foo as well as the gravel bits. That's going to look great with some dry brushing. And here's the wood bits that I put in the back. I did miss a little spot there, but it'll be okay. There you go. So I'll show everyone what it looks like after I go ahead and paint it. And here's a side-by-side before picture and an after. Little detail of what I did to the bed of the wagon. Some close-ups of the landscape, the flock, XPS foam rock, the sponge foo rock, broken wagon wheels, more sponge foo rocks, and I also put the sealant on the bottom of the cardboard base to prevent warping. It's a little trick, just FYI. Go side by side once again, a before and an after. So I hope you enjoyed this project, and if you happen to see these dollar store wagons, or if you're looking for something to do with one of those dollar store wagons that you already have in your craft supplies, go ahead and think about using some of your scraps and maybe making a crashed wagon. If you'd like a Cowboy Riding a Jackalope miniature set, a 3-piece miniature set, I've included links below. You can get them either on Amazon.com, free shipping with Prime, or go ahead and go to eBay, where you can also get free shipping. Thank you very much and have a great one.